All right, let's stand. Say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. All right, good to see everybody out here. When everybody gets called up, we need approval of the agenda, please. And I'd like to make a couple changes on our quarterly update to get these guys out of here a little bit quicker. Let's switch A and B on our regular agenda. Then F, we need to add to amend 2026-20. And then G will be adopt 2026-28. And that'll make more sense when we get into it. It was some stuff we had in the consent and we're dragging it back down here to work on it a little bit.
So I make a motion to approve the agenda with the modifications.
Thank you, Brian. Second.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Sandra. Any more discussion on this agenda? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Got called for public comment. Mr. Schmidt, you're up.
I don't have much to say tonight. I just, I didn't have time to prepare anything, so I'm winging this. I was at a lawyer's house, meeting today. Anyhow, the main thing is I appreciate this 3 minutes of time that you give us all to speak our grievances or to say whatever, or even to applaud what you're doing, right? The only problem is that that's a good democratic sort of thing, but it's not 100%. What we really need here is we really need you guys to be accountable to us, and we should be able to ask you guys a question. One question, that's all. One question per person, per occurrence, and get an answer. I asked you guys a question last time. I want to know who was responsible for taking a planning thing from rezoning a little bit of 280 and some changes in the nomenclature to all of a sudden this big UDO program that we got now that we paid $200,000 for. Who made that decision to go from something that was small and microscopic and approved by the state, and all of a sudden it becomes this big program that we're spending all this money on, and the state says no, because we didn't grant you that. Somebody made that decision. I want to know who did that. I want to know who's responsible for wasting that money, because it's a waste of money. We're not going to use, well, we cobble some use out of it after the destruction. But we as taxpayers are not getting value for our money there. And we ought to know who was responsible for doing that. That person should be accountable to us. Whether it be a counselor or one of the staff, who? And I found a very interesting law that entitles me to know who that is. There's a law in the books, in the Constitution, is Section 18, USC, subsection 242. It's called the deprivation of rights under the color of law. And if I can kind of put it in my words for you, it means that you as officials do not have the right to deny me my constitutional right of knowing who is doing what under my name and can be in prison for that. So I want an answer to my question by next meeting. You can write me, got my address. I'll write you an official letter if you like, asking that. I want that information. Yeah. And I would like you to look at your agenda and try to adapt it so that you can put a question and answer period. Just maybe one question. Add another minute to the 3 minutes. Do it. Let's get a democratic process going here where you guys have got to be accountable.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. Okay. Anybody else public comment? That's the only one I had wrote down. Anybody else? Going once, twice, three times? Okay. Council comments. Anybody? 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 So I know public comment, you know, is that even a possibility after hearing that? I mean, somehow we need to address some of these things as they come, some bigger than others. But can somebody this week somehow get him an official email to try to answer that?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
I think somebody needs to reach out to him.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Let us all know if you would.
The, to the question about public comment,
Mhm.
typically from the public comment period, questions are asked, then moving into council comments, that's an opportunity for council to respond
Okay,
to any type of public comment that they may wish or provide any other comments that they may wish at that time. But yes, absolutely, we're happy to reach out and
okay,
see if we can assist with his questions.
okay. And I think if it's all right with you, would it be okay for all the council to get copied in on that?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, typically during the public comment, we don't want to get into a back and forth.
I understand that.
Yeah,
One question.
And- yes, sir. And we've all got emails. You're more than welcome to email us at any time. I'll be glad to respond. And, just anytime. And feel free to hold us accountable at election time. I'm coming up in 2 years. I'll hug your neck,
But it's too late for the damage that's getting done. That's what. the problem is.
And that's- and, you're certainly welcome to your opinion. And thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone? Y'all good? Good. Manager updates.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just a few updates for you. First of all, you may have seen that the fencing around the North Loop, especially the Meadow area, has been taken down. It's a lot of work that's been put into making sure that the North Loop is back in pre-Helene conditions. And so right now, the full North Loop is open and available for all park patrons to come out and enjoy again. So we've been sitting around really trying to work as fast as possible to make that happen for the community, and we're very thankful that we're able to do it before the end of the summer this year. There are going to be some closures from time to time as we still work through it. Well, we've accomplished what's called substantial completion of the construction project, but there's going to still be some projects that happen from time to time back there. As you may see, there's still some areas that are fenced off in the middle of the Meadow area because there's a retention pond in there, sediment retention pond and other elements that are going to have to be worked on as we finalize the project. But for all intents and purposes, we really want people to come out and enjoy being able to get access to the river again and be able to exercise and recreate back there. And I really want to thank the staff for all of their hard work in making that happen. It took a lot of effort. The another item, the baseball field. Again, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself a little bit. We're going to have a major projects update here in a few minutes. But also we've done a walkthrough for the baseball field project as well. So we're going into the closeout process of that. So there's still going to be some temporary fencing there as well as we try to get some grass growing in that back area where that French drain is put in. But for all intents and purposes, again, being able to open that, being able to utilize that soon, just keep an eye out for it. We're going to keep updates on social media, on our website, et cetera, about any potential closures around that as well. Last, everyone's favorite topic, auditing. If Kristen back there, our tax collector, would say taxes are everybody's favorite topic, but we're right now in the middle of the audit process. We had the auditors on site last week. I believe it was last week, yes. And so they've concluded their on-site inspections. And so now they're in the process of all the other work that is necessary. They're still on schedule. We're still expecting them to come in November to present to you. So, and that concludes my remarks.
Moving on with our consent agenda, we really didn't pull anything. We had these set aside ahead of time.
Correct.
Okay,
Mhm.
so I entertain a motion to approve our consent agenda.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Sandra. Second. Ryan, second. Any more discussion on this consent agenda? Hear none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hear none. All right, regular agenda, we've moved up our quarterly, fourth quarter presentation. I guess
Yeah.
our manager will get us started.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. So first, I would like to introduce the Mills River Fire and Rescue's new Fire Chief, Bart Travis. I'm going to call him up here to the podium. I just wanted, in addition to providing an update for us, I really just wanted to introduce him, to council and to the community. Really want to thank you for all the hard work you've been doing over there and for just the work in the last few weeks that we've been working together. It's been really a great transition so far.
Thank you for that. Thank you for having me meeting. So I am 24 days in to my new assignment. And it has been fantastic so far. Everybody we've met from town staff has been super nice, super helpful. Community's been very open and encouraging, and my wife and I are just thrilled to be here. So if you ever need anything from the fire department aspect, please get up with me or the town manager, and we'll make that happen. But all of our interactions have been great. As far as the fire department is concerned, we have finalized a new building at Station 2. We are working on getting the financing finalized for that, and we have a special meeting tomorrow to address that. But we think we have all that in place, and hopefully we'll get construction started within the next month. They have told us once it starts, it'll be about 12 months completion, depending on the weather. People tell me it kind of rains here every now and then, so we'll see how that happens. But everything looks really good with that. We're really happy with that. The month of September and October are pretty busy months. We've got fire prevention starting first week in October, and the theme for that is charge into fire safety. And the idea behind it is the storage, use, and charging of lithium-ion batteries to prevent those type of fires. So there's going to be a lot of information coming out about that. We'll be posting that on the website and getting that out to as many folks as possible. We have, I think, 4 tours scheduled at the station in September with different groups. So we'll be working with that. So if you would like to come by and speak to me anytime, please feel free. I'm usually there Monday through Friday. They didn't tell me going in. They told me going in I was only going to have to work Monday through Friday, but I've worked every Saturday and Sunday that I've been here because of calls and stuff. But it's been fun. It's been very encouraging. Do you have any questions for me directly about anything?
Just glad to have you.
Yes.
Glad to be here. Another logistical thing, we have 2 engines and a tanker that are in the works. We should have the tanker before the first of the year, the new engine supposedly right after the first of the year, and then the second engine, which would be the engine that replaced the engine lost in Station 2 fire this time next year. So keep your fingers crossed on that. But everything we've got now is working in good shape, and if you need anything, just let me know.
Good. You ever been involved in a Santa tour before?
A Santa tour?
Mhm.
No, sir.
You getting ready to?
I'm
Yeah.
getting ready.
You're a real
About 3 months.
Look at Brian. He's like, dude, what?
And there's room for our town
Here's that
attorney.
again. It's legit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll leave it. It'll be a big surprise.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nicole, get y'all.
Okay.
Yeah. This is exciting.
Okay, good.
Need to plan a day for it.
Perfect.
It'll make you glad you moved here.
It will.
Well, we already are, so I can't wait to see what this is.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Thank you.
I believe our town attorney's invited to it. also.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. He might be the new Santa Claus.
I'm about to say we can find an outfit.
I might skip until I know what it is.
That's right. That's right.
The suit.
He's got the smile for it. He would pull it off.
Not the beard.
Well, we can.
You don't need one for Mr. Chris.
Uh-huh.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate that. I also want to call up our friends over at the Henderson County Sheriff's Office. Captain Whitaker is joining us here to provide us an update as well over the last few months and also other things we need to be looking forward to in the fall.
Good evening. Hope everybody's doing well. Sheriff's Office has been pretty busy. The calls that we've had in the Mills River area, we had last 3 months, 2,029 calls. We made 30 arrests. We had 265 traffic stops and we issued 19 citations. Some of the traffic stops and arrests were coinciding and some more services. Some upcoming events, if y'all don't know about them, is of course the Apple Festival's coming up. State Fair will be here soon and PGA tournament here, so I think we're gonna have not really Henderson County's gonna have some traffic challenges, but y'all might get it coming off of 191 there, so we'll need to keep an eye on that. We have permanent, if y'all don't already know, we have permanent medication disposal drop boxes. That's where everybody takes their old medicines that they don't use, drop in the box. We have it in 4 locations at the sheriff's office, Fletcher PD, Hendersonville Police Department, and Laurel Park. We've had some requests to have them put somewhere other than law enforcement buildings, but we try not to do that, so. But those are located there for everybody to use. There will be a medication take back and document shredding. If somebody has a bunch of papers they need to shred, it'll be at Etowah United Community Bank. That's 50 United Bank Drive in Etowah, on Wednesday, September 30th, 2026, from 1 o'clock to 3 p.m. And that's about it. Any questions, or I know we've got Captain Galloway here in case there's any questions about anything.
Anything? Anything we need to be watching for? Anything changed as far as the type of crimes or anything?
Scams my phone is blowed up this week with scams, so that's the biggest thing. I don't know what the trending scam is. Do you know what the newest? There's 3 or 4. I've been getting that one about TransUnion, Equifax on my phone. My wife got one today for Facebook, so just be aware. Yeah, just be aware. Yeah, federal agents, or you've missed jury or some stuff like that. So
Okay.
just be aware. It's we've had quite a few reports this past month being scammed and losing money. So.
All right. Thanks, sir. Appreciate you a bunch,
Yes.
always.
Thank you, gentlemen. So I'm going to turn it over now for Julie to jump in here with the financial update. So just as a reminder, we start with the financial analysis and then go into major projects and initiatives. Obviously, we've just gone through the public safety partner updates as well. And so, Julie, if you want to drive the train, I'll click for you.
Good evening, council. It's my privilege to present tonight's report to you for the quarter ending June 30, 2026. Just a couple of things that we want to bring to your attention. At the close of June 30th fiscal year end, property tax collections were at 99.68%. Total outstanding as of June 30 for the most recent property tax year was $14,290. Total collections outstanding for all years is $58,502. Wanted to let you know kind of where we stood as of the end of the year as it relates to our revenues and those compared to what we had budgeted. The sales tax revenues that you see here, there is still one more disbursement that gets accrued back to June 30 because it runs 3 months in arrears. So with the 11 months that we have presented here, it's at 2.1 million. We budgeted to 2,044,000. The average collection for Mills River per month is about $150,000. So we should see about another $160,000 added to that line item for June 30. All the other line items you can see there, the grants were at 100%, Powell bill was at 100%. Our miscellaneous revenues were up slightly over our budget because the revenues for Mills River Day sponsorships was up, as well as the vendors for that event. We actually also had 66,000 in park revenues. So that makes it 167% of what we had budgeted. And then our investments were much more successful than what we anticipated. And so that is why we have 357,000 versus the 280,000 that we originally budgeted. So without the final sales tax number, we're at 7.2 million versus our $7.4 million budget. and we did not have to use any appropriate fund balance for that. On our expenditures, you can see that, several of the line items, are slightly below budget. The capital reserves, debt service, police and fire are all things that we are required to pay 100% of what the contracts are. So that's why those items are shown at 100%. All the other items are there just slightly below or, within 20% of what we had originally budgeted. As a reminder, we budgeted expenditures for staff if they all walked out the door. So that's why all your major budgeted expenditure line items for staff are below budget, because that did not occur. So our budget versus actual surplus as of June 30 before the last sales tax is $460,143. On our fund balance commitment, you can see that as of June 30, our fund balance as a percent of general fund expenditures is at 103% of our expenditures, and your requirement is between 65 and 75%. So we have been able to put that money aside, as you have requested, for not only the reserve, but also for the capital projects that you are planning in this year and the future years. This budget is just informational to show you. The blue lines are the 25, 26 or 24, 25 year, and the line is the current fiscal year budget that just ended. So you can see where those main differences are. The one decrease that you see there is that in 24, 25, there was nothing budgeted for the lease agreement, because that was actually shown in FEMA. And this year, because there was just a little bit left this year, we left it in the general fund. But most of the line items, with the exception of the miscellaneous lease agreement there, are fairly consistent from year to year, with the exception there of permit and fees. You can see where it is a lot different from one year to the other, but the other ones are fairly consistent. And then on the expenditure side, you can clearly see that we're staying right along in line with what you have budgeted in prior years. Streets and highways, of course, is Powell bill funds, and there is a that the town will actually be budgeting expenditure to repair the town streets this year. So that money will be actually spent in this coming fiscal year. It was not spent in last fiscal year. On the capital projects, you can see where we ended up on the items that you had directed us to complete for the fiscal year ending June 30. On the park maintenance facility needs and assessment, we budgeted $150,000. That contract came in at $48,000, so that is complete. The town hall carpeting was budgeted at $118,000, and it came in at $81,000. So you can see in all of those line items that we were able to be right at the budget or just below the budget. The basketball court resurfacing was actually completed in this fiscal year, and a budget amendment was presented at the last meeting to move those funds into the current fiscal year. So that's why there's nothing shown there. This report here just kind of shows you what we have spent on Helene. Our total expenditures to date are $685,938 of the $2.8 million that we have budgeted, anticipating to be expended. The majority of that, of course, is in the Cat G park facilities. Most of that is the riverbank restoration. The main items that we wanted to bring to your attention were the contracts and agreements that were signed during Q4, which is April to June 30. And you can see here Most of these were brought to council for your approval, but we did want to just include those as a reminder for you here. The North Loop Meadow Project, the community survey with ETC Institute, the audit contract for this fiscal year that they are auditing now, the baseball field, and then one that you might not be aware of is the federal government came down with an American with Disabilities web content accessibility requirement. And so we had to buy some software in order to make the town's website and documents ADA accessible. And so that was signed on June the 30th, and it was for about 50.
Thank you, Julie. The next slides go into the major projects. Are there any questions so far from council?
Julie, what made the permits and fees jump so drastic on revenues?
I think what it was, the difference between 24 and 25 is that some things that were shown in that line item in the previous year were not truly permits and fees.
Okay,
And so we've been moving that
Okay.
correctly.
I got you.
So I
So we
think
should
it
see
was,
that balance out next year.
yes, sir. I
Okay.
think it was just a reporting
Okay.
issue. The revenue was correct. It was just in.
Where it was placed.
Yes.
I got you.
Mhm.
Oh, I got it.
It looked like the library was a little high. Was there a,
It was a little bit high because the maintenance, contract for the maintenance of the library for the cleaning and things like that was a little bit higher than what we originally budgeted. Yes. And that's one of the contracts that we hope to go out for bid
Mhm.
for this year. And also the Duke Energy bills also included a increase for the Helene recovery in the last 2 months of that fiscal year, which we did not anticipate when we did the budget for the library because they have a portion of that utility bill. It was both of those things combined.
it wasn't in your report and it's a little off topic, so if you don't know, that's fine, but are the solar panels still keeping up with the electric charging?
That would be in the culprit.
And if it's possible, we can
We
get you
might
that
need a
information if you'd like.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't know if we have it on hand, so,
Okay.
but no, it's a good question.
I think that's it.
All right. Moving on, I've already spoiled a little bit of this, and also just for full transparency, not all of this fell within Q4. It was Q4 and a little bit into Q1 of FY27, but I think it's important enough to try to highlight where we're currently at. So the major difference that happened between Q3 and Q4, and like I said, into Q5, is the process that we've been working with FEMA. And I know I've been keeping council abreast of all the various changes and expectations that FEMA has had. One of the items that we've been able to do is move towards obligation of the funds at the current scope, project scope that FEMA has put out. Now, we disagree with almost all of those project scopes that you have, or that they have, and we're working through what they call a versioning or amendment process to make sure that we actually become whole to what the actual damages were. But now, what you'll see on here, is starting in Cat C, culverts and drainage, FEMA has obligated $25,560 for those culvert repairs. We do not believe that that is reflective of the actual damage to our culvert repairs. However, that's the first step before we can get that amended. As you can see, one of the 5 culverts was replaced during the North Loop repairs due to failure. There's another one that we're also working on and we're monitoring right now that we're going to be quickly jumping on that needs to be repaired as well. And so we are requesting that amendment process. That first culvert, just as an example, back in the North Loop, it's the construction entrance. I believe that came in around 35,000, 38.5, right around that number. So as you can see, we disagree with the FEMA number right now, but the one thing that's good is that they will go and update if there's a scope of work change, and we believe that there is for obvious reasons. The Cat E project, FEMA obligated, and we received just over $5,300. It does mirror our cost minus what we received from insurance. So we did become whole on that one. The total claims from the League of Municipalities was a little over 23,000. So again, we became whole based off of those two reimbursement strategies. The Cat D utilities, we have completed the repairs of the well and the well house. And I really want to just take a moment and also thank our maintenance staff as well, because they did a lot of work to make sure we did the final touches on that. So the roof and the door, the frame, we got a mason to come out to work on that, but really good work there. There are no remaining actions on it. FEMA obligated, as you can see, just over $6,200. Our total expenses were just over $6,700. I made the call that ultimately at the end of the day, that $500 was going to take a lot more time and staff hours to try to fight that $500. So we just have decided to move forward and just with that $6,200 amount, 6,276 or 67. The Cat G project, this is where most of our projects still remain, park grounds and features. This is back in the day, but as a reminder, the tennis courts, FEMA denied our tennis court request or project. We disagreed and we put forward a request to review that as well, and they then denied that appeal process as well. However, through the Office of State Budget and Management, there were funds that would cover the replacement costs, and we were awarded those funds. Right now, we have yet to move on using those funds because one of the silver linings of the OSBM funds are that they allow for flexibility on where that needs to be built. So right now, since we're in the park master plan discussion, revisiting where locations are, we have time to wait on that until you all get to make a final decision on whether or not you want to build in the same location or build in another one. So that's why those funds are still sitting there. As you can see, we're expecting to bring that to you all in October of the Park Master Plan update. The expansion property, as Julie was talking about before, it's a little over $920,000. We are also put in for another grant from the Division of Water Resources. We hope to hear about that in October. The reason why that matters, because a lot of people may say, well, $920,000 is a lot of money, and it really is. We're very fortunate to have that. That money can only be used for FEMA-related repairs. It cannot be for any type of mitigation work, any work that FEMA did not put within their scope of work. So we have to be very careful in setting up those funds. However, there's another section of the river that can benefit greatly from mitigation, and that would greatly benefit when we go forward on the expansion property. And so from a cost perspective and a bidding out perspective, we're trying to make sure that we're putting as many of those projects together to make one attractive package for people to bid on. We hope to have that information, that decision in October, and then we could start trying to work forward with potential build starting in the late spring, early summer of next year. So again, we're waiting, but hopefully not too much longer on that as well. The one item that's not up here, but before I get down to the other two, the kayak launch, FEMA obligated just over $7,300 for that. We are in that appeal process right now as well. It's slower for that one because of all the environmental factors, because it's in the river. So right now that is in with FEMA so that they are trying to work through all of their processes. That one's going to take a little while longer, just again, because of the environmental impact that it's going to have with the river. The contract, as I stated earlier, in early FY27 Q1, really we're able to make sure and sign off on the substantial completion work in the meadow and the North Loop, the parking lot, and the culvert that's under the parking lot. In Q3, you all approved the formal bid of just over $1 million for that work. FEMA has obligated, as you can see, just over $280,000. The reason why there's that big difference there mostly comes down to FEMA needing to add the incidental debris removal to that project. As you all may remember, FEMA kept going, it's incidental debris, now it's not, now it is. So we have in writing that it is incidental debris. We are pushing them to make sure that amendment happens, and we believe that's the majority of where that difference is. And also, I believe that $1 million price point is going to be on the high end of what we're actually seeing with actuals coming in. So right now we're working through that amendment process and I'm hopeful that we're going to be able to close that gap substantially. And then last but certainly not least, as I mentioned about the baseball field, FEMA obligated just over $160,000 for that one. The winning bid for the actual FEMA related part of that project was just at $70,000, so $69,775. And then there was a $5,700 that we did additionally because we're going to replace one foul pole. I found out, thanks to Nicole, that they don't sell individual foul poles. They sell them in pairs. Makes sense. So we went ahead and bought the second foul pole as well. That's why the 5,700's there. So it just came over to a little over $75,000 for that replacement. And as I mentioned, it's in the closeout phase currently. Any questions about our FEMA projects?
Any questions?
Do we have to give back like the 70 some odd $1,000 for the baseball field? Is it-
So the short answer is it depends. These are all considered small projects, right? So FEMA categorizes anything under $1 million as a small project. They're large projects for us, small for FEMA. So right now, some are a little bit higher, some are a little bit lower. So right now we're holding on to those funds because we believe that, let's just say in the North Loop project, for instance, that they don't come up and make us whole within that. We can actually use those remaining funds from the baseball field to help make us whole across the board. So the short answer is it really depends on how all the projects wash out. And then from there, where we have to, plug holes where we can. So we're going to have to keep you up to date on what that looks like as of right now. So that ultimately that's where it's at. So from a FEMA perspective, from the state perspective, they want to make sure that those funds go towards those FEMA projects. Small project, they don't necessarily care how those are distributed.
But we are keeping.
But because we also like to play very conservatively, so we are making sure that everything is very much documented. Thank you, Julie.
Any more questions?
Just going on to other major projects and initiatives here. As you can see, a lot of the items, now I'm just going to briefly go through the ones that are really new for us here. Evaluating, implementing a new payroll system that was pushed to FY27, so that $10,000 was moved over into FY27. The AV system in the Commons Room, those updates you all approved in Q4. Updates were just made in FY27. As a reminder, in the budget, you all budgeted $60,000 for all repairs to any AV equipment going in there. We've done the first phase, which apparently means that my voice, which I always thought was carrying enough to begin with, carries a little bit more in the Commons Room right now. But we're still working through that. So phase 2 is coming here in a minute. And I'll keep council up to date on that. It's going to be including microphones and some other work that's going to be going on. The next ones that are on the list for you, the community survey. As you know, at the last meeting, we had a conversation with Jason Moreno from the ETC Institute. There was 15,000 budget in FY26. It ended up being at 14,000 awarded. So we're very happy that we were able to stay under budget for that one. And that's still planned for a September release. And so there are a couple items that we need to finalize, but then we'll be ready to go on that. The council salary study, you all during the budget process, council approved an increase in December 2026. We are looking to conduct a salary study in FY27 with council included. We are already having those conversations with firms to see which one may be the right fit for the salary review for a community of our size, or for an organization of our size. And then that one over there, the last one was been completed in Q2. Any questions from administration? Looking at Parks and Recreation, as you can see, quite a bit of those were not applicable by the final cost because we were moving them into FY 27. So, for instance, like the space needs assessment needs to be a part of the larger park expansion discussion. You're going to see some of that as a park master plan, kind of where that potentially may fall. Looking at the studying of Hooper Lane, looking at what that may be as a future priority. And then for review in FY 27, creating scholarship opportunities for programming. So there were no costs associated with those three, but they are, we haven't lost them. They're still priorities that we've just shifted them to FY 27 and beyond. And then obviously park accessibility was earlier on in the year, at just over 320,000. Any questions? All right, going on to the next. The three items here for planning and zoning, land preservation program. I really want to thank Mike for his work when it comes to just diving in deep to farmland preservation and land preservation overall. As you can see, he attended the State Voluntary Ag District and Farmland Preservation Conference in July to gather more information to try to find other opportunities for us to continue leaning in on this important project. So as you can see later on in the year, looking for an educational event for these programs and informational flyers. This is also information that you all council directed us as staff to look into. So we are working on that into FY 27. The UDO and land use code update. In fact, I think you all received just the final draft right before this meeting for your review as well. As you can see in FY 27, as I know you all are well aware of, the amendment to the UDO contract totaling $32,000 to make sure that it is down zoning compliant moving forward. And we are still on track and on schedule to meet the deadlines that you all set. The last one on here is town traffic schedule update and build out. Right now, we're just waiting for the implementation from DOT. And so, you know, as council, you may remember there are certain areas within town that will have some slight changes within their speed limits. So we're looking to be in the next month or two having those signs up. And then once they're up there, then we're going to be bringing that back to you all for formally adopting a traffic schedule that's updated.
Okay, for those of you that didn't figure it out, I've got a question because I've been told when I lean forward, everyone knows I've got a question. So legally, if the speed limit is in a town, would the town has to do a concurring ordinance in order for that to be enforceable? And then the signs have to be posted. Don't we need to do the concurring ordinance before the signs are posted? Because once the signs are posted, that's the new speed limit. And the only way it's enforceable is if we have a concurring ordinance.
That's what we did before, it seems like.
Oh, we did that.
So that's what we're going to do. Okay.
Yep.
You're awesome. Yeah. Okay. So it doesn't have to come back to us for any ordinance. That's already done. Gotcha.
Any other questions, council? All right. And then just a couple of those additional improvements as well. Julie already talked briefly about the basketball court resurfacing. It has been completed in FY 27, as well as the resealing of cracks and the improvements on the tennis court as well. We knocked those two projects out at the same time. Completed in Q4 were the epoxy floors and the hickory shelter. The park expansion project, as a reminder, was originally budgeted for $150,000. The final cost was $267,000. We expanded that because it extended through December 2026. So instead of it being just that first phase, it was that first phase plus for that greater scope all the way through the potential new master plan for you all to review. Again, coming before council, I just want to remind you that's why that discrepancy is there. And then the park maintenance facility and upfit right now through design costs just under $50,000. In fact, the next item on the list, you're gonna have to hear me drone on about fun, exciting things going on with the park maintenance facility. Any questions? The most important question, Julie, did I miss anything?
No, you got.
Thank you.
We were back to our original A, the discussion on the maintenance facility construction.
Yeah. We're gonna just take one sec here. Self-organized. All right. Mayor and council, I just want to, Julie's also going to be up here walking us through this, but just as a reminder, as I've already talked about in 2024, you all approved the Mills River Park expansion, um, expansion master plan, which outlined those future amenities and features, right? One of those items that was on that list was talking about a new maintenance facility because as we continue to expand on the project behind us, the property behind us, having the facilities that are actually going to meet those needs. So in FY 26, as we just talked about, $150,000 were set aside. We worked with WGLA as well as they subcontracted with ARCA Design to come together to help us with both a needs assessment and then also with that first concept plan for your consideration. And so earlier this year, in May 2028, it feels like so long ago, Tom Jones and Brian Moffett both came in and provided that preliminary design for your consideration. And so tonight's really just that next step. So at that time, I mentioned to you all that I wanted to come forward and talk through the potential pre-construction and construction options and recommendations for moving forward, try to answer any questions that I can, but ultimately look at how we can start moving forward on getting this, moving this project forward. So $275,000 was budgeted in FY 27 and approved by council. Just over 1.3 million, almost 1.4 million was slated for FY 28 and about 1.9 million in FY 29 as a part of the CIP. So again, that 5-year financial forecasting model, as well as with, and like I said, the overall CIP, that does not include, right now, that does not include operating cost. That is pure new maintenance facility and the upfitting of the current maintenance facility. That is based off of the numbers that were provided to you all during the presentation with WGLA. There's additional money in there, about $400,000 for the upfitting of the maintenance facility. You'll see that tonight in the design as well. So debt financing right now, what you all have seen within the budget starting in FY 27, going through the next 5 years is just over it's 2.66 million of that is slated for debt servicing and debt financing. And right now, based off of the conversation tonight, depending on the direction that you all as council wish to take, we are able to move forward. And one of the first steps is to put this item out to bid, get this project out there and moving, and then ultimately get a price point that the LGC, the Local Government Commission, is comfortable with for us to have a conversation about our borrowing power. So Julie has already done great work on making sure that we are in good financial standing for the debt that is potentially going to be requested. But again, these are all preliminary numbers. These are all very preliminary based off of the concept work that has been done so far. The next phase is really getting into what the actual costs will look like. Already kind of did this without meaning to, sorry. In FY 26, as you can see, that's when it really started, those conversations. We've already talked through the budgeting items as well. And then again, in May, you all have seen that document. We're going to switch to that document here in just a minute when I get the cue. And like I said, we'll actually show you a little bit of the very, very preliminary sketch of the community, what would be considered a community building over there for the maintenance facility. So Kevin, if you can you switch over to me for the other documents? All right, so this is the one that you all saw as of May 18th. So there have been no changes to the main maintenance facility since that time. So as you can see, this is the footprint that's associated with it. It's just over 6,600 square feet, as you can see on the property there. And so there has been a little bit of work making sure that we have entry and exit points that are coming out as well. And you can see the connecting point that's over to the current parking lot. Can you scroll down for me, Kevin? And by all means, you all can stop me at any point. I just don't want to repeat everything you've already heard. So here's just a little bit closer view of it. There's a fence line that's in there. It also shows where some water options are as well that are a part of that, and also some gating that would be necessary to protect the site. This is what the schematic interior looks like that that was recommended through our discussions from our needs assessment, and then also working with the designer. The really making sure that we have adequate space for maintenance of our vehicles, but then also the garage storage, which actually have those pass-throughs. So those bottom two bays completely pass through, and then the other one where the lift is one where they can actually do more maintenance work on those vehicles. Going more towards a hoteling style as well within the break room as well. And I'm just going to stop. Is it possible for us to get the temperature turned up a little bit in here, please? And so making sure that we have adequate space for that, adequate storage, but also making sense of where the small engine and the chemical storage is for entry and exit points. As you can see, easy entry and easy exit. One thing that was on the previous page, we don't have to go back, but we also tried to design this to make sure it actually will last through growth. So there are a couple areas in there that are actually designed for storage, but will be able to be fitted for offices if we need to actually expand our footprint even more with additional staff. This is the exterior version based off of what the current standards are when we were looking at making sure that it would fit within the UDO confines that we had. And so again, there may be changes based off of this, based off of what may be adopted by council moving forward, but that's the current model right there. Can you scroll down for me, please, Kevin? Again, just a couple of other images for you as a reminder. We had a conversation with, you all had a conversation with Brian Moffitt and Tom Jones about like the little pop-up window areas and other amenity features, and that can all be worked out again moving forward. That also, that bay that's at exterior right there can also be boxed in and made to a third bay as well if needed. Scrolling down, Kevin. All right, so going down to the next one for me. So right now, this is what the latest one, again, very early high level sketches. There's not a lot based off of the size of that space can be done when it comes to recreational uses. Quite a bit can be done when it comes to programming uses. So that's why it's called a community room as of right now. Redoing the entryway where the gravel road is for a lot, and then having an exit out the back with a potential patio and sitting area as well on the outside. Again, very preliminary. I know this is the first time you all are seeing this, but ultimately this is kind of showing what could be done in there to try to expand the footprint out to have both indoor and outdoor type programming in that space, which will ultimately ease the burden, right, on, on this room right now, which is being used for quite a bit. There you go. They, again, just very high level concepts from Arca Design as well. Ultimately, though, these are preliminary. These are sketches. The next step is actually going and hiring an architectural firm and working through the actual, those next steps. This is about when I was talking to Arca Design recently, somewhere between 10 and 15% of actual design. So there's still quite a bit of time to actually talk through what you all as council actually want to see here. This is just showing what could be done to meet the needs that were identified through the assessment. Kevin, can you go back for me to the presentation? Unless there are questions specifically on what you all have seen here so far.
I got a lot of questions at some point.
And looking for repairing or upgrading the current maintenance shed to a community space.
Mhm.
I think you and I had talked before about maybe looking at a place to maybe make it maybe a chance for the library to move down there, to open this up for office space here, to keep the staff all in one building. And then, you know, at looking at adding offices to the new maintenance shop, that's still gonna have, you know, they already had one up there and then a workspace for them. Are they looking to put more offices up there?
So, thank you for the questions, council member. The first answer is we did look into that, and it's my understanding that the current footprint of the library is bigger than what the footprint of that maintenance facility is. So even right now, the library would have to downsize in order to fit within that space, especially when you include the office spaces that are in there. So as of right now, I have not had conversations with the county on whether or not that would be an amenable space for them. Just from a square footage perspective, it would, I think it would potentially hinder their work instead of expanding what their work is within that
Okay.
space. And I'm just looking back at Nicole to make sure I am correct on that. Yes. For the maintenance facility in the back, right now we have space down in the current maintenance shed, a maintenance facility where there are a couple of, like, three places for people to sit for our parks maintenance staff to use. And uh, the new design, the office is designed for the supervisor. And then we would have a hoteling type situation where, again, there will be dedicated spaces for them to use, but they won't have like an assigned desk or a space or an office, because most of the time when our park maintenance staff are coming in to check, they're coming to check something real quick and heading back out. So instead of using that space for offices, more of a hoteling type option. Yeah. Any other questions before we move forward?
I'll wait for right now.
Okay. Nope. All right, came back. I know, as council knows, there are three main core delivery models here. And so the first one that we're very familiar with is the design bid build method, right? So essentially we bring a designer on through a procurement process or an RFP process. We pick them, they design it for us, then we go out to bid for the construction, the lowest qualified bidder for the construction, then builds it. So that's the design bid build method. So you can see there is potential risk there of change orders that happen because right now the designer and the contractor are not necessarily in the room when everything's happening at the same time. The design build is a single point opportunity. It is provided to us, as you can see within the general statute. It's where you can actually bid out one item as a single point, where you can do both design and construction at the same time. There are benefits to that because the contractor and the designer are talking to each other. Most of the time, that means change orders are going to be done, before you actually start building the project. So it really does help with meeting speed. The thing is that means one entity is reporting to us. The contractors are ultimately reporting to the designer, right? So that provides a little bit less oversight, but it does provide opportunities there. Like I said, the one thing that's big about design build is that we must meet NC general statutes for use. I'm personally a fan of design build when possible, but we have to answer some very specific questions in order to do so, right? And so as of right now, this project, in my estimation, and we're talking with Julie, does not meet the general statute definitions for that. The third option is what's called a CMAR process, which is a construction management at risk model. And so it's a hybrid model where essentially you would have a designer. We would put out a bid for a design, And then we'd put out a bid for a contractor, but it would be a construction management or construction manager at risk. So then they would be reporting to us both, but they would be in the room together working through any design elements, any other types issues that are there to try to, again, make sure we're not going into, any issues or change orders or any other types of things that can happen later on within the process. It does change the model though. It really does change the model where the way it's been explained to me and from others that have used it quite a bit is that usually in design bid build, the lowest price is at the beginning of the process. So you set the price and, what happens after that, it tends to go up from there. You try your best to keep it down. From the CMAR approach, as you can see, they have something called a guaranteed maximum price. So through the process with bringing the designer on, the contractor who wins the RFQ on, working through and negotiating based off of the schematic, which I would recommend around 50%. You would get the design up to about a 50% schematic design. Then you would be able to use that. We would look at them to put together a project cost at that point, and we would lock them into what's called a guaranteed max price. And that guaranteed max price, then ultimately, again, there can be some change orders that can happen through that process. But again, the goal is that since they've been walking through the process together and talking through that process, you don't get there. And then there are also some benefits as well, because there's contingency monies that are within the CMAR as well that are designed also to help cover anything that may come up that was unintentional or unintended through the process. It's right now for a project such as this, and I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of peers around the state about this, is that a maintenance facility overall does not necessarily fall to where you would absolutely necessarily need a CMAR for that process. Looking at staff capacity, looking at our again, our timeline for this, but then also looking at the fact that we also had the upfit that we would want to bid this out as one project together, right? That it felt like the best approach for this, especially because it's over right now, the projections are over $3 million. And usually, again, with my conversations, that $3.5 million is the range where CMARs are starting to really show up now. They used to be in major complex projects. And by the way, I'm saying all of this knowing that the mayor is a builder, and so I'm waiting for him to tell me that I got something wrong. But but at that $3 to $3.5 million, we're starting to see CMARs being used much more at a lower level of cost, just because of that conversation that can happen at the beginning, and also that guaranteed max price. So those are the three right now. In my opinion, design, bid, build, and CMAR are the two options that you have available. We have available for us on this project. And Julie, I'm going to look at you to tell me anything I missed.
We don't.
Just a couple of other statements here, just from the contract structures. I've already talked about this a little bit. You do have separate contract with the architect and the builder with design, bid, build. They are separated out projects. They are the lowest qualified bidder within each one. Ultimately, at the end of the day, depending on if there's a contractor that disagrees with the designer that ends up with the contractor, usually the town is stuck in the middle on those kinds of issues. Design build, obviously, again, as we've talked about, doesn't allow for that. We don't think it's an allowable use for this project. And then the CMAR structure, as you can see here, really is a partnership, collaborative approach. When I've talked to some of my, like I said, some of my peers on some of the projects that they didn't use CMAR, they wish they had. But ultimately, this is your project. I'm only providing my recommendation for your consideration and for discussion, right? So ultimately, you all get to choose and decide on how best to approach this that you all would like to see. The construction manager at risk, as you can see, they are used as a trusted advisor during this for pre-construction because they report to us. We also do have on-call engineering services as well. So depending on what the type of situation is, we can also lean on our on-call engineering contract to also just make sure that we're not missing something, to make sure that we're not seeing anything or that we're missing anything. Are there any gaps through this process? My recommendation, as you can see here, once design would reach 50%, that's when that's when the construction manager at risk would negotiate what that guaranteed max price is. So the goal of that, getting closer to that 50%, allows us to have a little bit more of an understanding of what that high value could be or should be for that. I've seen some CMARs that have it at 30%. I think that that's low for us, especially because we're risk adverse when it comes to these types of projects, and rightfully so. That 50% method is one that I feel comfortable with. So Julie, I'm going to turn it over to you because you also did great work on the pros and cons list and the work behind this.
Sure. So what this slide here refers to is the benefits of using a CMAR and the cons of using a CMAR. Just so that you could see them all in one place for ease. There's cost certainty with a CMAR because you have the most price that you could pay. The one thing that in a lot of the classes that I have taken and a lot of the documents that I have read from the general statutes, the security bond requirement for a CMAR is 100% of your project cost. And I know you've had problems with other projects in the past where there was disagreements. This requires the contractor to cover 100% of the cost. If they walk away, you have the money there to finish the project. The CMAR does require open accounting requirements. They have to be willing to open their books for financial transparency for us to look at anything related to that project. It increases collaboration and can create greater efficiency and shorter timelines. Improves bidding because if you have your engineer and your architect and your design construction firm working together to come up with that price, you have a better idea of what those value added costs need to be when you're estimating that project. The cons are, it is a liability for the town because you have to make sure that your design is completely 100% on point before they go to the bidding part. It does have an increased administration burden because you are collaborating with all the parties, making sure that everything is exactly the way it needs to be and the way you want it and the way it meets the needs of the town. There is a con that if you have an inexperienced construction manager, that you could result in construction deficiencies, but if you do the correct RFQ process, you could eliminate those deficiencies by making sure that you're selecting the qualified individual to do that.
So just as a project cost recap, we've already talked about here, on the left-hand side, preliminary cost was approximately $3.1 million. Now, again, I cannot stress enough the term preliminary within this discussion. Also, with the current maintenance facility upfit of approximately $450,000. Now, is that, what you all as council are looking for, giving us direction and guidance on meeting the needs and expectations that you all see for this? That's a part of this discussion as well. But ultimately, we're trying to find an approach that is transparent, that makes sure that if we are going to spend this money to help benefit the community and help benefit the town, that we can be confident that it is going to result in a product that we can be proud of. And so that's just, I wanted to go over that a little bit right there.
So Matt,
Yes, sir.
Who evaluated these numbers? Who generated these numbers?
These numbers were presented to us by WGLA with Arca Design. So again, those were our two firms that came together to pull together these numbers, the design, the needs assessment, everything.
I've been accused of not speaking up before, so I'm gonna speak up. There's no way in the world I'm gonna sign up for a $3.1 million maintenance bill. Everybody hear me? I ain't gonna do it. And if you think them numbers are legit, I do this every day. That's way more than double for that building. I know I can't build it because I'm sitting in this seat, but there is no way. Part of that 6,600 is open shed. That open shed from there over, concrete post, red iron, in all, you're probably looking at probably $27,000 from that, for that over. It's good to have it, but these numbers are highly inflated somewhere. Now, where, I don't know.
Mhm.
And I mean, WGL, I mean, they was here. I didn't say a whole lot before, but I've been accused of not speaking up, so I'm speaking up now. And you could build this whole other building right here for $450.
Yeah.
Let's upfit it. I mean, I don't get it. I don't know I don't know. I do know we're sitting in a municipal situation here and I know how that works. But if I'm looking after my people, these numbers are highly inflated in my opinion. I'm the only one, but I'm speaking up now.
Yes, sir. And understandable. It's one of those numbers. And now, I mean, I don't want to speak for all the staff that was on there, but it was surprising as an understatement when we saw these numbers as well. That's why, again, they're very preliminary for that reason. And one of the things that I liked about the CMAR process as well is that there are clauses that are in there that if you go out to the RFQ and those guaranteed max prices are, let's just say the guaranteed max prices are in these numbers and you all as council do not wish to move forward with that, what that means is that we are going to go back to the drawing board and find other approaches for it. So it's you're not locked into these values.
Problem with it, Matt, is we're having to pay somebody to draw this stuff. We're paying big money to have it drawn at least a 50%
Mhm.
to get these numbers back. So we're gonna have a lot of money in it to maybe go back to the drawing board again. And we just heard tonight that bothers some people.
I got one quick question
Please.
off of this. So what we've been presented, the design so far is what percent, you said earlier, you have to get to 50% before in the C-bar model before you can put it out.
That's
What
my
percentage
recommendation.
are we at now? Like, what would you say that
Yeah.
this is now?
So when I talked to Arca Design, they said, maybe 10, maybe 15 tops, depending on which one you're looking, if you're looking at the maintenance facility.
Okay. Okay. Because would it not be, if we went with that model, would it not be beneficial to come back and be like, here's our wish list, here's our budget, but have that, both of those lists or, that number going into it, not, I don't know, just, it does feel a little bit backwards, like we should go into it with a budget versus just, oh, what is this gonna cost? I'm not in the construction business, so it does seem very high. I did build a very nice part of my house for a lot less than this, but, I just think we need to come up with like a reasonable budget first and then see what we can check off of our list that we want.
Understood. Yes, sir. So the direction that we received was to go through the needs assessment and to see what would meet those needs. So as of right now, this is what's been presented to us through the engineering firm. That being said, and Julie can speak more to this as well through the research, is that you can, and in fact, right now, technically as council, you all have set the budget that reflects this based off of the FY27 actual budget and then the 5-year CIP. So we have built in this into the model. That ultimately, though, and I believe through some CMARs that we've seen as well, go in there with a budget set that says this is the number. This is the high end of the number. This is what we're going to do. And that's it. And that's a legitimate approach. And I'm going to turn over to Julie.
City of Charlotte actually has 3 current out there and they've they said for the three projects, these are the three max prices. So people aren't gonna bid if they're not gonna be willing to meet those price points.
Yeah.
So,
I did have one other quick question. Is there a timeline deadline that you can have in CMAR? You can put in there, here's my budget, I want, Mr. Contractor, and also, you have, by July 2028, I don't know, some date, it has to be done.
Delivery date. That's what you're asking.
Yeah.
Like a delivery date for CO.
Yeah.
So you,
Is that part of this? Is that part of this?
As
So-
long as it was a realistic number, you could. You'd have to give him some weather days and stuff like.
Yeah,
that.
but I'm just saying, you could, in the CMAR model, you could put in that. They could bid on that with a date involved.
so right now, at least from my research and discussions on it, the RFQ highlights when the construction wants, the expected construction begin date. So when through the process, the CMAR puts together the project scope and the cost, and then it presents that to the organization, to the town. And so ultimately, at that point, that's when the negotiations also happen, because it can be, we want to start January 2028 as an example, and we want it to be done by, October of 2028, and then working with them to make sure that meets that timeline.
That's a reasonable thing to do.
Mhm. It may not be during the RFQ process. Now I think we can put it in there as what our expected end date is. But ultimately, through the process is when they would design it, and then we would have to negotiate on what that project timeline would look like.
So if we were to choose the design, bid, build
Mhm.
model, then we'd pay the money for the design, then we put it out for bid.
Mhm.
And the contractor that gets the bid would build it. Someone has to do the inspection and make sure everything is done correct. That'd take a lot of time, wouldn't it? I mean, that's pretty much have to be there anytime the contractor's there. Is that something we would contract out, or would we do that inspection in-house?
I would highly recommend for a project such as this, that if we did that, we would go through an owner's representative model for design, bid, build. And so we would bring in either an owner's representative model where we would bid out to find someone, or we would lean very heavily on our on-call engineering services and do a task order for them to do project management to that point, to be on site throughout. Because yes, council member, the making sure that we have eyes on that project, throughout that project, making sure that, corners aren't being cut, that we're getting what we're paying for is vitally important.
Is that the route we went with the last shelter?
We went design, bid, build on the last shelter.
No, we really didn't have anybody overseeing that. Yeah. the
Mhm.
design was-
Mhm.
So
So-
if, going back to the CMAR approach, if we tell them you got $3.1 million to build this. I mean, I've got very limited experience with CMAR. That was done when I worked at the city of Asheville. And the people someone's going to take the risk. Someone's going to take the risk. That's why I like having state employees to maintain our roads, because rather than putting out a contract where they're paying more, they just work extra time to do it. So they take the risk. If someone is bidding in that risk, they're going to bid that risk in. That's going to affect the price. The 3.1 million is turnkey, with us not doing anything but saying build it, correct? That includes the CMAR costs and everything.
The 3.1,
Mhm.
so
Or is that just the materials and the labor?
this is a very preliminary number.
Should be everything.
Yeah, so this included, the grading of the property, Yeah, the site prep, the whole 9 years, but again, it's
Design.
incredibly preliminary.
Design and construction costs and inspection and overseeing. That's the total cost.
They built in their total cost when, yeah, that was their total cost projection.
That's their
They,
projection.
they did build in, so the model that the WGLA approached us on, which is a model, they leaned in on one, which was the design bid build model. So the timeline that you saw previously was the design bid build timeline. So there is contingency that was built into that preliminary number, et cetera. Now, as I mentioned, the reason why I wanted to bring this to your attention, because I know it's a new approach and I know that it's, I wanted to be put on your radar of what those possibilities and options are. As I mentioned, though, it is a different model because the guaranteed max price comes before construction begins. So, but that being the highest number that you're going to see can sometimes be very difficult relative to the lower number, but then working through the change order process. Not one approach isn't necessarily like going to change drastically the work. It just depends, to your point, as you mentioned, who's going to take and accept the risk that is associated with it. And so I would recommend, because of our past experience and also just because of staff capacity, that we would do at minimum, if we did a design bid build, having an owner's rep that would be speaking on our behalf to ensure, like an engineer, to ensure that we are also not missing anything from our end. So we don't run into issues that we've had in the past, which is, those arguments that we're then as a town stuck in the middle of.
Typically, they do this for a percentage.
Sure.
So if our budget is $3.1 million, but the CMAR can get a price a lot less than that, then we take the price. So,
I think we're.
if we tell them we got $3.1 million, it's gonna come in at $3.1 million, no matter who gets paid. Right? Or do they say, we can bid, when we bid that out, it comes in at 2.5 million, including their fees. Then we don't have to spend the whole 3.1. That's, you know what I'm saying? If you send me, let me close this so my wife can't hear me. If she sends me to the store with $50 to come back with groceries, I'm not bringing any money back, right? Cause I'm gonna, when I run out of milk and bread and everything else, then we might go over to the Doritos and the snack area. So I'm just saying, if we tell them $3.1 million and it comes back at $3.1 million, whereas it could have come back a whole lot less, is that a reasonable?
Well,
Was that my 3 minutes?
To me, in my experience, that never happens.
Okay.
It just from bidding projects that we do,
Mhm.
we all know what they have as far as money to spend on the project. No one's going to put that amount in because you want the business. So you're going to try to cut the other
We're
person.
gonna try
And
to.
the other person's going to say, well, I know old John, he always goes 10% below, so I'm going to go 15 because I want the business. So
Sure.
nobody's going to come in at 3.
So it's not gonna come in at 3.1 million. They're not gonna say, oh, there's a budget, I'm gonna hit that
No.
budget. So, okay, that was one of my concerns, is that,
And the other thing I'll say, Mills River Station 2, the last I heard, is 2 bays drive-through, which is exactly what this is. Same square footage, living room, 2 bedrooms, kitchen, very similar to this setup. It's more than twice this. So I don't think 3.1 is actually, it's going to be close.
If I may just real quick, with this design also being 10 to 15%, this is showing what could be with the potential cost meeting the needs assessment. But again, we would be putting out, as a part of this process, bringing in a designer, an architectural firm, just like you would during design bid build, you'd bring them in, but you would then bring in you would bid out the construction manager at risk at the same time. And so you bring both of them into the room at the same time. So this design, the layout, the structure, all of it can look different by the time it's done as well, because you all, ultimately it's your decision as council, what it is and meeting the needs that it is before it even goes out to what the actual guaranteed max price is. So again, that 50%, we're using 3.1 million right now based off of what you see before you and what their estimations are, does not necessarily mean that that's what is going to actually go out as a guaranteed max price at the time, because this can very much change with that extra 40% and bringing those people in together to talk about it. That just a caveat.
Who's gonna be overseeing the project if we do it with Seymour? Is it gonna be the engineering firm that's putting all this stuff together?
So the CMAR process is it's ultimately a collaborative process. So we'd have a team in-house, right? That would be there.
Staff.
That would be staff. And it would because of the size and scale of the project, it would be myself and staff that would be on there. And then it would also be the architectural firm and the CMAR. So all those entities would be working in tandem. Ultimately, we're the owner. Ultimately, we are the decider and the one that signs off on these projects. So overseeing it ultimately falls to us. So, but like I said, it's a collaborative approach from the beginning to try to make sure that we're not going to be running into any issues and try to work those out beforehand. And I know I've said this before, but I just want to reiterate as well, the one benefit of this process as well, again, if you all wish to go with this route, is the fact that, let's just say it gets up to that 50% or that 30%, whatever that number would be, and it goes out to bid, and it just comes out way higher than what you all as council wish to spend at that time. We have changing priorities that have happened since then. There's discussions that have to happen. Yes, there's money that's within those schematics that we would have and that we would be able to have moving forward, but we may have to take a step back and have a conversation about timing of this, prioritization of the project. Where do we need to scale back and change based off of it? Those conversations continue to happen throughout. But to the mayor's point, yes, you are putting in expenses into getting it up to that 50% level. It's not like a design bid build though, where it gets up to that 100% level before you then bid it out as well.
Well, I've got a lot of heartburn with $3.1 million to store lawnmowers and equipment. I mean, that's a lot.
That's my question here is, we're spending taxpayer money, not our money, taxpayer money. And, you know, I could see where we could spend some of this money we're talking about spending on this building and other aspects of this park. I know we can't get the cart in front of the horse, but I don't know, we gotta have a thoroughbred racehorse, you know. I don't know that we gotta have that. I mean, this thing is, I know it meets, it's my understanding it meets, architectural review. But, you know, I don't know, well, and we'll have to do so because we're within 1,000 feet of, 190 run, correct?
Okay, Mike, can you come up and it's possible to join us? Thank you.
The language council adopted in the UDO requires architectural elements for any non-residential building in the town. The way, when we brought this up, I think back when it was drafted, because we wanted to be very clear on that any non-residential building must meet the new architectural standards. The distance was done away with.
But you don't think that'll be a downzoning issue?
No, because it's only applied to new development. Doesn't create nonconformities, doesn't apply to anything except someone who applies to develop if the UDO is adopted.
If not, it's still within 1,000 feet.
It's only 500 feet now. But again, that was something we tried to bring up with council. Gosh, I think it was December or November, because I knew that was probably going to be a sensitive topic.
Gotcha. Look at our town attorney. I mean, do you agree with that? Is that not a downzoning issue? It seems to me like you're putting a new restriction on someone's property, be it commercial or not, but.
Downzoning is specific to 3 types of things, none,
Okay.
right? Just, less uses, making something non-conforming, and I'd have to look at,
Density.
and density, yeah. So architectural standards wouldn't create a downzoning scenario.
I got you. Okay. this corn, I don't know, you know. I'll be honest with you, I won't be here when this takes place, so. but, Make sure we make wise decisions with this money.
Would there be additional cost if we get to the 50% and then we see it and, you know, they get some bits back and then we go, whoa, you know, we want to change X, Y, and Z, whether that's less or more. Does that restart the design? You know, then you're gonna get another fee for it.
Generally speaking, and I can speak very generally, is that once it goes out to bid, once the design is at a 50% threshold oh, sorry, then the guaranteed max price happens. And then, like I said, they work through that. The design at that point is what the design is going to be at that point. So like at that 50% threshold, the CMAR is taking the risk of that other 50%, but usually from my understanding and from my experience, that 50% is a very conservative number about what you should expect to see, at least on the big ticket items.
Yes, this building here, the chance of a change order is very slim. It's so basic on the inside, you know, there's the whole garage area is non-heated as far as I understand, and then you got the open space, you got 3,020 feet of garage unheated. You got 1,635 heated, and you've got 1,945 outside. So, I mean, that outside is what it is. You know, other than if you wanted to paint something a different color after you've seen it go on, it is what it is. The inside of that garage, you know, we'll get some details on how it's going to be finished on the inside. I'm sure it's going to be sheetrock for fire code. And the other is basically like a house, you know. Now, if you took, you know, Champion Hills numbers and put $435 a square foot on that heated part. And I mean, the garage section, you know, I don't know, but then you just gotta figure out the grading and all. See, we're gonna have, you know, we know there's gonna be a lot of fill over there, probably some geo grid, some fancy footings to hold this building up. So there's a lot of unknowns. I'll be honest about the unknowns, but I just don't see, I don't know. I just don't see it in it, you know.
Yeah. Mayor, you bring up a very good point when it comes to the change orders. Again, it goes back to Mr. Moore's, Councilmember Moore's comments. It just really depends on where you all as council wish to put the risk associated with that. And so again, there's
And I'm
not necessarily
opposed to
one.
having somebody look over it. I'm
Mhm.
not opposed to
Okay.
that at all. I'm not.
Okay.
But, you know, I think council in whole, the five of us, need to decide if this is the design we want. Or do we think maybe it's a little bit much, or, you know, me personally, I can live without the roof popping through on a maintenance building. I mean, I know we're gonna get a little light through there. But, you know, it would be way cheaper to put a backup generator over there than to pop that roof through.
Hmm.
So, we got, you know, I think there's a few things we just need to think about a little bit before we, you know. And it's just like, this is kind of like our first concept. This is really the only one we've seen, and we really can't, I don't want to pay to have 15 of them brought in here either. But if we need to tweak on it, I'd rather tweak on it before it goes to bid than it go to bid and us come back and try to change it, because really it makes the bid process almost start all over again.
If I may, Mayor, and
Yes, go ahead.
very good points. So normally in a normal CMAR process, you bid out the design first. You work with that designer a little bit to get that needs assessment done, the preliminary sketches done. And then you bring in and you bid out the CMAR. And then through that process, they work together and then changes happen, right? Again, coming before you, talking with you about what those design elements look like, understanding what you want and what you want to get rid of. All of that is still part of that, what would be a normal traditional CMAR process. We did it slightly differently because we thought that, again, based off of council's direction, that you all wanted to see those concepts and understand what, again, what a potential price and what the needs assessment was first. So we've done that through our on-call engineering services. So we haven't bid that out, right? We did that through the RFQ for on-call engineering, which is one of the things that they can do. So we have this before you. So to your point, Mayor, yes, this is the only one that you all have seen. When we bid out, or if we go this route and we bid out for the architectural firm, they'll get this 10% piece. They'll get the needs assessment documents that have been all pulled together. And then it's their job to also then take it to, and continue working through that. That's why my recommendation would be that if we did this, to actually do CMAR and design at the same time, because we've already done what the designer would have done normally on the back end to get it to this point. But to your point, I think Brian Moffett, when he was here for the ARCA design, even stated, it's like we can get rid of the sunlights in there. We can get rid of the type of siding and go with a different type of siding if it's helpful. If there's a layout change, those things can still happen. And you all will be shaping that discussion as well through that process. This would be a part of the bid packet, but they would not be bidding on building this specific thing. It's bringing them on to, at a 10% phase to see what, to go and move forward through the actual construction. If you'd like, we can also continue using ARCA design for on-call engineering to continue tweaking this concept. We will have to bid out the architect. Yeah, we are not able to use them for much more than what we've really been using them for now. So that's where we have to be careful.
So we could have another meeting with them and say, hey, what can you do to this to make it a little simpler? Still meet our needs and bring the cost down, but keep it at 10%. Plan. It's just a concept plan.
Yeah, you can do that, and like I said, you can do it either through this phase, or you could do it with the actual architectural firm if you bid it out. The same conversations can happen either way. It would be whether or not we want to move forward with seeing what staying on the timeline that was proposed.
The trick to this whole thing is getting the max amount of bidders that we can, honestly. That'll be the trick to this. No, change the subject just a little bit, but I need to know. And we pretty much, through our needs assessment, we've determined that there's no way to use the building in the back, or do we think the building in the back has some effect on our master plan? What was that? I know we've had that discussion before, but just bring it back up for me.
The dairy farm and the open air
building, the 2-story building.
Yeah. So, and Nicole, if I may, I'm going to ask you to come up here as well, because you have much more knowledge than me on this as well. Well, for the needs assessment piece, looked at what the needs were for us expanding out there. There was no look specifically at the buildings because that work has been done prior.
Yeah, as part of the original master plan process, we did have a structural engineer come out and look at those facilities, and they were just not built in a design to meet the standards for public use. So they're just unfortunately more than what we're using them for, which is just storing material underneath it. We can never house staff in those. We can never do any of those sort of things in those existing facilities because of the standard they were built to.
Now that septic system that's down there, that thing is rated to handle 500 kids per weekend. It was designed for agritourism. At any point, are we trying to save that for any use for anything?
During the park master plan expansion, the work we're doing with Withers Ravenel right now, utilities, all that has been looked at. And those are some of the things that they've looked at, is of what of that can be saved. Because even some of the well is something we're looking at, potential irrigation, right? That could save us a city of Hendersonville if we can repurpose that well. So that is something that we're currently working through to look at to see what we can reuse for those facilities.
Okay. so council's pleasure, which way y'all want him to move forward with this.
If I may, Mayor, just briefly, just go to this last slide. This is kind of what the timeline that we put together. Again, this is all depending on if you, on the direction you give me, give us. But, you know, we can bid out both of these items together at the same time, actually, in September. Going through that, we could actually bring you all, we believe, in November, an actual, for council approval, the firms for both the design and the CMAR. So again, depending on what that is, ultimately it's your choice if you wish to move forward or not. And then it's a quick process. So I'm going to say it's contingent on design completion, as you can see down here. We don't necessarily have to meet the January timeline. We actually got some clarification with the LGC, but the LGC will not look at our financial options when it comes to debt service until we have a GMP, guaranteed max price. So December, January, potentially getting you all that point, whenever that is, our goal is to try to get in front of the LGC by February or March. It doesn't mean we obviously have to spend the money. It's just them getting the getting on their work. And Julie can talk much more about that process as well if you'd like.
Well as with our property tax valuation, what we have the potential to borrow. If you remember when we talked about all of this stuff during the strategic plan, last year's audit showed that we had a potential up to $10 million for it, based on the property values that the residents had at that point. Don't know what that number will be yet because it's based on their final analysis of all the values for 2026. So it could be up slightly or it could be down just slightly from that. If they take all of that into consideration, then look at the audit to see if there's any findings that would impact their decisions. And then they look at that gross guaranteed max price and determine that based on the financial stability of the town as to whether or not they would approve for any debt finance.
Was that 10 million, additional, or that's like 10 million indebtedness minus what you already have?
It's your maximum amount that you can, that the town can carry.
Okay. So essentially that goes up every year anyway, because you're paying down other long-term debt.
And just as a reminder for council, briefly as well, the reason why we're looking at debt financing and debt service for this is to free up cash and capital for the actual expansion project, because it's easier to borrow against the facility than it would be against the park expansion. So that's why trying to be financially conscious on how we're balancing both future funds and current funds.
Matt, how much of these two structures weighed into that 5-year tax increases? Because we're gonna have to raise, how much was it?
So
2 full cents, or if I remember correctly, 2.5.
So if property taxes stay the same based off of 2026 valuations or 2025 valuations, because we're using that for 26, it would be 2 cents over 5 years. So 17 to 19 in a stair step model. Now, again, that is subject to change based off the actual valuation of the properties. Yeah. So, yeah.
But there was other factors that, other than these two.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, absolutely. So it included this, it included all the operating costs that we projected out to run this facility, to run that facility, a new staff member or two to help with that. It also took into account the actual phase 1 approach for park expansion as well. So all of that, all of the projects that we have baked in fact, I think it also included, and I apologize, I don't have the budget in front of me, preliminary work on the town hall expansion piece as well for staff. Yep. Thank you. In 31. I knew it snuck in there at the very end. So it included all of those major projects and initiatives over the next 5 years.
reason I bring that up is, you know, with the county raising theirs, I'm
Mhm.
hearing a lot about it from, especially the older residents now. It's made it just a little bit tougher on the fixed income, so.
Mhm.
I'd be in favor of putting a RFQ out for an architect.
You looking for a motion on this or just the consensus or probably motion would be better on this one, wouldn't it?
I'm gonna look at our clerk for guidance on this. Yeah.
Yeah, it does, if you're gonna give them guidance to throw out the RFQ, you can do it by motion. There's
Nothing
no
wrong with it.
harm in doing that.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Make that in the form of a motion or?
Well, do we want to go with Seymour or are we gonna do bid design?
Design, bid, build, or Seymour.
Yep.
Well, I think by the time you hire someone to oversee everything, the design bid build is not gonna save you much money over the CMAR. And at least the CMAR, we've got the guaranteed maximum price. So I would say the design firm and the CMAR. That's my thoughts.
Would that alleviate the problems we've had in the past?
I believe it would.
It depends on it depends on that person. I'll be
Yeah,
honest
it's
with
gonna
you.
be vetting those folks.
Mhm. The biggest problem we've had in the past is architectural design and it coming to tuition with what we actually got. So I don't know, and you can see it happen here, folks. You got the maximum bid. So just be prepared. Telling you up front, I won't be here, but I'm telling you what could happen is as they see they're getting close on that number, say if materials increase dramatically from the time it's bid till the time it's built, because you got a few months in there. Concrete goes up, paving goes up, whatever. They have to cut corners because they've got a maximum number. None of this, nobody's gonna eat any of this. They're gonna figure it out. They'll change wire size, they'll change type of light fixtures, they'll cut corners. So it's not like it's an out. You know, the picnic shelter down here is supposed to have a tongue and groove. Well, it ended up getting the 4x8 boards installed instead. But that was just one of them things that she just said, oh, it looks okay, and let it slide, you know. It was drawn one way. They installed something else, but she was okay with it. She checked the box. You could still have a little of this happen, but not much because the architectural design of this building, this thing has got to pass code. So it's gonna have county inspections. It's gonna have fire regulations because you got a garage attached to office and break room space. So you're gonna have a firewall. You're gonna have a lot of things that can't be changed even if somebody wanted to. But just know that whoever you get, and it can happen with the first one also, if we hired someone. We got no guarantees that it'll all be called, looked over. So you just gotta go where you go.
Council will be the one selecting the architect, right? So it's
Yeah.
on us to do our due diligence to get the right person.
Yeah, so you all would be ultimately deciding on the RFQ. We'd bring it with you with our, there would be design standards. We would bring it forward with recommendations on what that would be. But yeah, ultimately you would have those options.
But then in a CMAR, who then is boots on the ground to make sure that we paid for 5 inches of concrete and we didn't get 3.5?
The Seymour consultant or someone that works for them.
But somebody is
Yeah.
reliable.
That's why it has the 100% sure.
But they do add that to the price. So they're not eating that either. So
Mhm.
just know, I'm just telling you up front how it works. I mean, you're asking for that security bond and it's a great thing to have, but they're charging us for it, basically.
Yep.
You know, but it's not a bad thing. It's like an insurance policy we're having to pay for.
As I mentioned, this process is one of the most conservative approaches, just because, again, that guaranteed max price, because of what you're looking at. There is not foolproof. It is based off of the RFQs and how they're written. It's based off of how they are, the responses that come in, but ultimately, both the designers and both the architectural firm and the CMAR report to the town, similar to the design bid build. Which ultimately puts and on us to be able to ensure the quality that's necessary. Whereas again, like design bid would not, but one of the benefits of this is, at least hopefully, and from my understanding with talking with many others who've done this, is that getting them in the room to talk at the same time, the architectural firms and the construction manager at risk at the same time, alleviates a lot of those concerns, and ultimately, hopefully, cuts out a lot of those cutting corners later on, because those conversations have happened as a part of the guaranteed bid. The guaranteed max price as well. So nothing is foolproof.
Are you guys, are you guys getting assistance on, writing the RFQ?
Yes, and also we also have great assistance right over here, and Mr. Brian Golden as well, helping us with that.
The only thing I'd say is I hope council, no matter which way we go right here before this motion is actually officially made, is just we work on trying to work with the architectural firm to reduce some of this cost if possible.
Mhm.
You know, not move this tax burden on their taxpayers and hear about it. I mean, we need the facility, but we don't need, a firehouse to work maintenance out of, okay? So let's just work with it and see what we can figure out. If there's anywhere we can cut it and not hurt it. We need the space. We need all the space we can get.
So that's gonna involve lots of talks with you all to make sure that we're meeting your needs.
I'll entertain a motion.
So I make a motion to, allow staff to create the RFQ for architect design firm in the CMAR.
Got a motion?
You need authorization to sign,
No, no, sir. You all are the authority to sign.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll second that.
All right, any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? All right.
Aye.
Aye.
I'll see it. Any opposed? Hearing none, all right.
Thank you, council.
All right, whenever staff gets resituated, we'll move on to our appointment of our Board of Adjustment board member and second alternate position. We got 3 applicants.
Okay, on the Board of Adjustment, you have a board member and a second alternate position to fulfill. And these would be terms that they had someone and the person had to resign. One person moved out of town, the other one had to resign for unknown reasons, but these would be to complete those terms. And council's been given the applications.
Discussion.
Some good applications.
They were good applications. Which one are you looking at doing first, the Board of Adjustments?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're on C. Anybody got a recommendation?
So I'll make a motion to appoint Sonia McCall to, fill out the position resigned by the term expiring in November 18th, 2027.
That the Brad Burton position, I guess. He was on, he was
Yeah.
actually, yeah, okay.
I was trying not to say his name.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Got a motion, about a second?
So we're doing two. This is two. One board and one alternate.
Yeah.
Well, there's two positions open. I'm just, right now I'm doing the first position, which is
Okay, okay.
the 3-year term expiring. So. Which would be a board member. You're right.
Taking a second. There is one.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Yes. All right, all in favor? Aye.
Uh,
Any opposed? Here none. Okay. All right. Somebody look at our second alternate position. That's been open for a while, right?
Since Mr. Ross.
Yes.
But yeah,
Okay, so,
I make a motion for Jacob Hagerdorn
okay,
for the alternate for the Board of Adjustments.
all right. I'm looking for a second.
I got one more question again.
Yeah.
Did we tell them that this could either be an alternate or a board, or we didn't say?
um,
They are applying, were these 3 applicants applying for a board member or alternate?
I just brought you the applications that I had on file.
Second.
Okay, discussion. Has anybody talked to, was you able to talk to Jacob?
I did reach out and speak with him.
Did he mention he's okay with the alternate position, or did it ever get to that?
I didn't ask that.
Okay. All right, any more discussion? First, second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Right, let's move on down to D, appointment of the Ag Advisory, Committee, currently Bert Fleckus.
I make a motion that we keep Bert Lemkus on the agricultural board.
Okay, got a first, how about a second?
Second.
All right, got a second, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, moving on to E, appointment of the Agricultural Advisory Committee for Bradley Johnston. My understanding, Bradley does not want to serve. Is that, anybody else heard that?
I did.
Okay. I did too. Okay.
I'd like to appoint Mr. Hoyt to the agricultural advisory board.
All right,
For a
Second.
2-year term ending August.
I'll second it.
Or 2028.
got a motion, got a second, all in favor or any discussion? Anybody got any discussion on that one?
I'm all for Mills River residents.
Please, what now?
I said I'm all for Mills River residents.
Okay, all right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, if we can keep going here, we're on a roll. We'll need to amend, 2026-20. We'll need a little help with that one. Got it right here somewhere.
Just. So on last meeting's consent agenda, there was a resolution to use state contract for the John Deere mower. Going through that process, we've learned we're also eligible for Sourcewell. So we are, there's both are really good pricing. We're not sure kind of which one's coming back lower. So we would like just permission to do both of those so we can just go with the lowest bid. So pretty much as simple as that. We want to have both options and then we'll
Amend it to
Amend it
allow
to-
for both.
to both.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we've got, something here on our paper.
Yeah, so I moved to amend resolution 2026-20 as presented in the amended resolution 2026-20.
Motion?
I'll
Second.
Okay,
So all that did was just add or Sourcewell.
okay, and that's good catch, might save it all.
Yep.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Alright, any opposed? Hearing none. Okay, we're moving on to G, to adopt 2026-28.
This goes along with the contract that you approved in the consent agenda. We are trying to move away from global payments for financial and customer service reasons. Because of software restraints, Allpaid could take on our Civic Rec and SmartGov software. Tyler Technologies only allows two merchant processors, the credit card processors, to fully integrate with their system. And Global Payments is one, and their own Tyler Payments is the other. The bonus of doing Tyler Payments is that we can actually do e-checks, which would be, I think, $250, which a lot of our residents have been asking for the last few years because the county does them. So it'd be a nice service to offer.
And just as one final note, Tyler Technologies is also the financing system that we currently use in-house for both finance and tax. So
And the credit card fees with Global Payments has gotten to be astronomically unattainable for residents to carry the burden for that. So item J was to move Civic Rec and SmartGov, as Kristen mentioned, and then this will lessen that burden on the residents using Tyler Payments for the credit card piece of tax collection.
Okay.
I move to adopt resolution 2026-28 as presented.
Second,
I'll second.
any discussion? And then everybody understand? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank y'all. Entertain a motion to adjourn our regular meeting.
Make a motion to adjourn a regular meeting.
Second,
Second.
that's it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Make a motion to enter into our business meeting.
Thank you. And James second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? You're not.
So, Mayor and Council, there's nothing in the business meeting for tonight that we had identified. So really, it's for you all, whether or not there's any items that you have any questions about or anything you would like for us to look at moving forward. You can see we did put both September 10th, September 24th meetings. These are very preliminary. I feel like that's the word of the night. Agendas as well, but just showing you what we as staff are working on right now. So if you have questions about that or any other items, we're happy to discuss.
I'd like to discuss, specifically warehouse heights in either in the UDO or, possibly like a moratorium to get through it, but, there's a lot of chatter about some of that, and I think we need to proactively look at it. I would like, if we could get what it is now, what the UDO has in it, you know, as it stands right now, what we can do that's not a down zone. I'd like to weigh our options on that one. So that would make me have a question. Could we, or to the town attorney answer, if we do that, could we exclude portions of the town? Like, could we not put a moratorium on like our Franklin Park where it's a business area anyway?
So, right, there's some certain things that you all have to consider when you're looking at adopting or passing a moratorium. And the first thing is, what is the evil you're trying to prevent? And so if generically we were going to say no commercial warehousing buildings, what is it that we're trying to prevent, right? So some people now, the big thing are these data centers. So the moratorium on the data centers. But if we are trying to prevent large scale, tall warehousing buildings, we could limit it to moratoriums on height and size of buildings, but still other small warehousing buildings. Me, I want to build a warehouse for my lawnmowers. And if it's less than 2,500 square feet, I ought to be able to do it, as opposed to having all warehousing buildings under this moratorium. So Councilman Cantrell, you said height, right? If that's what you're worried about, it could be over 3 stories, over 2 stories, over 30 feet, over 35 feet. Brian, if you're worried about, large buildings over 25,000 square feet, you could come up with a number. There needs to be, because in the moratorium, you have to identify what it is you are trying to prevent and how much time you're going to need to find that cure. And again, I don't know, Mr. Malachek's gonna tell us like what the new UDO says about certain warehousing buildings and size. Right, because again, you're talking about making non-conforming uses, decreasing density and the number of uses allowed on property. So size of the building may not create a non-conforming or a downzoning situation. But moratoriums aren't just designed to prevent all commercial buildings until we get the UDO passed. We are working towards some regulations on the UDO. I just don't know what the concerns are. But moratoriums are designed to pump the brakes so that we can address the evils that are lurking out there. We just have to figure out what those evils are.
Mr. Malachek?
How many evils can be in one moratorium?
Yeah, I mean, so I mean, the height and the square footage of a building, I mean, we don't want, if you are worried about someone coming in, putting in a 7-story warehouse building that is 300,000 square feet, that seems huge, but I mean, it could happen. That those 2 evils in a moratorium could be prevented. But if you were to say any warehouses, and I don't know why I'm saying warehouses, but if you're going to say no warehouses in the town of Mills River under this moratorium, we would have to be very specific why we're saying no warehouses at all. Because if I wanted, again, build a warehouse for my car and riding lawnmower, that moratorium would prevent that. And is that really what we're looking to prevent?
So I think the biggest complaints was obviously that Banner Farm and Schoolhouse.
Which one? Sorry.
Yeah. So what is the current regulations or what was that built to?
So current zoning rules for light industrial allow up to 80-foot tall structures or buildings. So that was what was applied to that development. And then because we required the architectural drawings, excuse me, I actually looked them up. That building runs between 38 feet to 42 feet tall, depending upon which corner you're measuring from. It looks slightly higher too, because they put 2 to 3 feet of fill on the site because there was a high water table. So the stormwater device wasn't going to function correctly. So that contributed to it as well. The original UDO, which was invalidated, had decreased the industrial zoning district height to 35 feet or 2 stories. But as part of the down zoning amendment, the final draft sent out to you guys today, we preserved all the dimensional standards that are in our current zoning district. So the draft UDO says 80 feet. And I would defer back to the town attorney, is being stricter with dimensional requirements for a building, is that a down zoning? In our approach, the consultant and I, we were very conservative. And so we preserved setbacks, heights, basically any dimensional standard in the code now.
Did you want to address that?
Yeah, so I'm pulling up the exact language of 607.
Yeah, so our approach to amending the UDO to become down zoning compliant, we took very conservative approach, to avoid any type of legal challenge. So the dimensional standards in our code now, again, setbacks, height, building separation, whatever it may be, those are all carried forward into the new amended UDO, down zoning compliant, the draft that was just sent to you guys today. So it's 80 feet in that draft. It was 35 feet or 2 stories in the rescinded or nullified version.
I mean, the specific language of 160D 601 specifically talks about downzoning, decreasing the development density of the land to be less dense by reducing the permitted uses of the land to fewer than were allowed under the previous usage, or creating any type of nonconformity on land not in a residential zoning district.
And that may be the one.
But you're talking about new development going forward.
But the zoning district dimensional standard period across the board, while it's applied to new development,
We'll
the
create a-
threshold lower. And I think that was the concern.
Yeah, but the MRMU is a residential district because it allows
No, mixed use is a commercial.
you don't allow any residential uses in the mixed use district.
No, we allow residential uses, but we allow everything else. And
By
because-
creating a type of nonconformity on land not in a residential zoning district, do you allow residential structures to be built in the MRMU?
We do, but I think we're also talking about industrial. I don't,
Would you,
Yeah,
would- I mean, so here is the argument. This down zoning legislation, as poorly written as it is, right, says that you can't create nonconformities on land not in a residential zoning district. If the MRMU is a residential zoning district because it allows residential uses, by decreasing the height or the size of a warehouse, are we creating a nonconformity on land not in a residential zoning district? You can have warehouses in MRMU. You can have structures, residential structures built. So I can't tell you here because there is no case law as to say residential zoning districts. So I think what Mike's saying is he and Chad were trying to be very conservative.
Can you still do a moratorium on it until you could come up with the either answer for that or some other, call it workaround, you know, I want to be able to see the sun on your property for more than 20 minutes.
Yeah, if that is, and I just pulled out some old notes, again, in order to adopt a moratorium, you have to have the statement of the problem or conditions necessitating the moratorium. So could you still adopt a moratorium to prohibit height and size of those facilities? If that is, if there is a specific problem or condition necessitating the moratorium, and then it says you have to have a statement of the development approvals subject to the moratorium and how those approvals will address the problems and conditions. So I don't know that you could say, we want a moratorium so the town's attorney can do some legal research.
I wouldn't say that. I would leave that up to you.
Again, I mean, there are municipalities out there that have allowed residential structures in all of their districts so that they can try to get around this down zoning prohibition.
So in MRLI, we don't allow residential.
Right.
So if we allowed residential in MRLI, then we avoid this.
That is,
through his-
that is a potential legal argument that you could make. But you don't allow it, right? So that fits exactly to what this says. By creating a type of nonconformity on land not in a residential zoning district. If the light industrial doesn't allow residential structures, it's not a residential zoning district. So you can't create any type of nonconformity, which would be reducing the height or the size of a building.
But if those are the tallest buildings, the tallest warehouses in light industrial, and we know they're less than 45 feet tall, could we change that max from 80 to 45? We haven't created a nonconformity, and we're a little better off than having 80-foot tall warehouses.
You could try that. The only thing that I'm saying is
I
there
don't
is
like
no
what
case
the
law.
lawyer
This
says
down
you
zoning
can try that.
legislation, this down zoning legislation is so new,
Uh-huh.
hasn't been
Uh-huh.
challenged in court. If somebody wants to challenge it, they can.
So if we wanted to do a moratorium on commercial warehouses with a building height restriction of 45 feet,
anything, a moratorium for those buildings over 45 feet.
For a period of 6 months.
Yeah, yes, I think you could do that.
Okay.
As long as we can come up with statement of the development approval subject to the moratorium and how the moratorium on those approvals will address the problem.
What about 30 feet? Because 45 feet is what we got, and all we hear is about those. I'm just trying to,
No.
I'm just trying to, there's a lot of chatter that more of those are coming, and I'm trying to make them a little bit more beautiful.
Yeah, 45 feet, 30 feet, if there is a particular evil that you're trying to address because of that.
I mean,
I think that is.
yeah, I'm trying to like reasonably not, be more than 11 feet. But it seems like those are too tall for what we would want to see.
I mean, if it gets challenged, it's defensible. We would have to create a moratorium that satisfies all of the statutory requirements under 160D 107, I think. And then we would have to create a reasonable solution as to what we are trying to prevent.
And if I was gonna challenge it, and I'm no lawyer by no means, but, I would take into consideration some of the height of the houses around. I'd say, man, you got my warehouse to where I can't have it as high as my neighbor's house. 30 feet sounds tall, but a lot of people's houses from front door to the front peak is over 30, fairly easy anymore, especially in the mountain. Especially, but
What's the maximum in our current?
For residential building height,
I was just going off a 2-story
50.
or 212.
and that's across multiple districts.
Okay.
50 feet is the maximum height for residential homes
Yeah.
in many of our districts.
May I get a clarifying question from ask a clarifying question to the town attorney real quick, council? The fact that we're still in the UDO process in and of itself, I have seen used as rationale for moratoria because the UDO process in and of itself will bring potential changes through that process. We have not adopted a new UDO yet. So a moratorium on, let's just say something as specific as that, could be trying to stop the evil of the evil that would be stopped essentially is that we are working through a process to update our codes and our ordinances in order to, adopt a new UDO. Is that, I've seen that used before. Is that, what are your thoughts on that?
Then your moratorium would only be 30 days.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So I'm just thinking through what those other options are, but I've just seen that. So I want
But by the time you drafted the moratorium, got it in front of council for the proper hearing, it'd be on the same.
But there's no guarantee that we're gonna pass the UDO. So we can make the moratorium say 6 months or until the passage of a UDO.
Oh, that's a good question. I don't, no, I think there's gonna have to be a specific date.
Mhm.
I can't just make a so moved motion and this goes into effect.
Need a public hearing.
Sorry.
I knew where the humor was coming from.
I still think we need to explore this further. And I would like to see, we're in the business meeting, I would like to see this on a regular agenda meeting. Because I think we should have this queued up anyway.
I agree with James.
We toyed around with it a couple times and keep pushing it back. I think it's time well spent to have it.
And we probably need to talk about data centers while we're in that.
Mike, can you,
Answer that.
about the data center, since they have the UDO copy in front of them?
data centers are listed as prohibited.
In our
The,
current.
the, in the new downzoning compliant UDO. The reason for that is because, again, while taking a conservative approach, the mixed use district says all uses are allowed. That doesn't mean anyone can pick a use under the rainbow and that it's gonna be permitted by right. It's the uses identified in the ordinance itself. And so since data centers are not identified as a use in the ordinance, we felt it was something that could be regulated through a prohibition.
So basically, the only uses that are allowed in MRMU are uses that exist in other zoning districts.
Correct, called out anywhere in the ordinance. Even if there's a definition of, in it, you know, and it's not even permitted anywhere, it's a use identified in the ordinance. It says all uses. That's the equation we use, basically.
Is that something that can be challenged, like as a Board of Adjustment plan?
Everything can be challenged. When you adopt the ordinance, it wouldn't go to the Board of Adjustment. It would be challenged to Superior Court
Okay.
directly through some kind of declaratory judgment action. Right, within the specific time. And the reason I agree with Mike on what he's saying, because there's new uses that happen all the time. For example, I was advised Oregon has a silly site, a mushroom eating facility. So if you want to go ahead and eat some mushrooms, you can go into this new facility. Who the heck would have ever thought that's not a permitted use that anybody would have ever thought about?
Well, just since I've been sitting in one of these chairs, the vapes and all have come along. And all, so we've seen that develop, like. where-
Yeah,
It's a little
vape shops are a little different. That's retail, that's right. But
No,
but
no,
when
no,
you're
something-
talking about coming into a designated area to do legalized mushrooms.
But how do you not, how does he not argue if I come to him and say that's a restaurant? How does he argue that it's not?
I guess by the definition of what a restaurant would be in the planner's dictionary.
I would have to make a staff determination and categorize your use, and if you disagreed, you'd appeal my decision to the Board of Adjustment.
That's easy.
Well, I'm paying money for food. I mean, that's gonna be, it's not a restaurant. But I think we do need to.
What's the rest of you want to do? Want to look at it?
Okay.
Consensus?
And I'll just say too, the building height thing across the code, the approach we took was just to take what's in the current ordinance. So if this triggers a discussion about building height in all the zoning districts, let's just note that.
Mhm.
Anything else?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Second. Thank you, James. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.